What's up, guys? Welcome back to another man versus deer video. In today's video, we're talking all about spurs, how deer use them, and how you can hunt them. Let's jump into it.
What a roller coaster of a season it has been. Came in downwind and actually winded me.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new to the channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button, make sure that you like the video, and make sure that you drop a comment before you leave if you have any questions after the video is over. This video is actually a part of a mini series I'm doing about terrain features that you're going to encounter while you're deer hunting and how to hunt them. This is actually going to be the third video of this series, so after you check this one out, make sure that you check out the video I did on how to hunt draws and how to hunt ridges. Today's video, though, like I said earlier, is going to focus on spurs, what they are, how deer use them, and then how to hunt them. Alright, so to kick things off, we're going to talk about what a spur is. And if you're unfamiliar with what a spur is, make sure that you watch this video here. I did an entire video to kick off the series about different terrain types, different terrain features, what they look like on a topo map, and how to find them. So if you're in the dark about what these things are, I encourage you to watch that video. But as a refresher, a spur is a mini ridge or a micro ridge, or a point that juts off the side of an existing ridge, right? It's a ridge that runs this way. Like if a ridge was running this way and there was a small point or a small ridge that juts off the side of a bigger ridge, that's a spur. How do deer use spurs? Well, spurs usually aren't very big. In fact, a lot of times they're subtle enough that you can't find them on a topographical map. You're going to have to actually walk the sides of these ridges and find them. They're not really conducive to doe hunting, but what they are conducive to is buck bedding. A lot of times, if you can find a little bit of elevation that kind of makes its way to a point jutting off the side of a ridge, big bucks like to bed just off the sides of ridges anyways. And if you take an elevated piece of terrain where a big buck likes to bed anyways, that's going to give him that much more of an advantage. Anytime they have a rise in terrain, you know, it's going to broaden what they can see below them. They're going to utilize that. And that is the beauty about spurs, is that they are big buck bedding magnets. In my opinion, and this is what we're going to focus on, there's really only one way to hunt a spur, and that's going to be above it. Now, there are exceptions to those rules, but generally speaking, a big buck is going to bed on the point or the top of these spurs. They're going to be looking down the point of the spur. The wind is going to be coming straight over the ridge and running straight down that spur. And then the deer is going to be able to see everything below it. So essentially, he's going to be able to smell anything on the top of the ridge and view anything that is below the ridge. And a lot of times the views from these spurs are very, very good. So it's going to make it really, really hard to approach from the bottom unless you're a long ways off. And that's why I focus a lot of my hunting efforts when it comes to spurs towards the top. Step one, when you find a spur, you're going to want to find out, one, if you can, where the bed is, but more importantly, you're going to want to find the trail that comes off of the spur and back up the main ridge, because that's where you're going to want to plan your ambush. When you're hunting a spur, the only time that buck is going to bed there, more than likely, is when the wind is blowing straight down the spur, okay? Obviously, you can't hunt directly above that deer because your wind is just going to blow directly down to him. So you're either going to set up off to the side, or you're going to hope for an off wind, a wind that is just slightly off. It's blowing mostly down the point, but kind of off to the side, and that's going to be your ideal scenario. So for instance, and I'm going to throw a topographical map up here for reference. So for instance, you found a buck and he's bedding on this spur. You got a wind that's blowing straight down the spur, and you've scouted it, and you know that there's a trail that leads up the ridge and hooks this way. You would want to place your stand here. The reason you're going to place your stand here is because it's far enough off to the side that your wind blowing down the ridge is not going to alert the deer that's on that spur. Your thermals most of the day are going to be blowing up, which also won't alert the deer. And then in the very, very last parts of daylight, when your thermals start dropping, it's going to drop off to the side and not straight down to that deer. That's the ideal scenario if the wind is blowing straight down the spur. Now, If you've got a crosswind or a slightly off wind, this is where it gets really good because it allows you to snuggle right up to that spur and it allows you to get a lot closer. You don't have to be towards the top of the ridge. You can get down as close as your visibility allows. But let's say we're using the same spur as an example. You've got the same bed and you've got the same trail coming up and out of there. You can actually use that just off wind to snuggle right up to that deer. Same thing applies. The thermals during the day are going to carry your scent up, which is never going to hurt you. But then when your thermals start dropping, that cross breeze is going to push them away from that deer, and it's going to push your scent just far enough away from that deer that he thinks he is very, very secure and has no idea that you're there so long as your setup was good. That's going to allow you to set up significantly closer to that deer without the risk of him smelling you. And as we all know, big deer do not tend to move very far during daylight. So the closer you can set up to that deer, the better your odds of intercepting and shooting that buck are going to be. And that pretty much takes us to the end of this video, guys. There's really only one way to hunt spurs, in my opinion. Now, there's going to be some scenarios where you're maybe in some thicker terrain, or you're hunting early season, and maybe you have the foliage to attack one of these spurs from down below. But that is going to be very, very few and far in between, and most of your hunting efforts are going to want to be focused above. I hope this video helped you guys out. If it did, make sure you check out the other videos in the series. I'm going to put them in the description below, and I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure that you smack that subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment if you got any questions at all, and I really appreciate you guys watching. I'll catch you in the next one.